A team's buy-in is hard to get and easy to lose. We'll explain why buy-in was a problem last season for the Nashville Predators and how they go about fixing it on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to kick off this episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio. And friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Emma Lingan, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
So, Emma, at Barry Trotz's long-awaited press conference, he laid out what he saw as some big issues for the Nashville Predators in a season that saw them tumble down the NHL rankings. One of the things he identified was buy-in. At his long-awaited press conference, Emma, Barry Trotz laid out some of the issues that he believes caused the Nashville Predators to tumble down the NHL rankings last season, and buy-in is one of the problems that he called out. Today, we're going to talk about what Trotz meant with that observation. We're going to discuss just how serious a problem that can be for a team to recover from, and what the solution is before next season. Before we dive into this topic, though, want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So, Emma, I thought it was interesting. Barry Trotz did what I wanted him to do. He came and identified, like, hey, here are some places where it went off the rails. And I don't know that it was a comprehensive list, but it was enough to give us to chew on for a while. And one of the things that he called out from the team was buy-in. And buy-in, it's like one of those like nebulous terms like lost the team, nobody really knows what that means, and all of that. So when we're talking about buy-in, the context and sort of what we heard from Barry Trotz, it's just sort of that agreement to support a decision. So it's, kind of the team saying, I understand what you want from me. I'm willing to invest in that. I believe in that. And then executing that. And somewhere from point A to executing that, it went off the rails Emma last season. I mean, like we were way off in the jingweeds. So how concerning was it for you to hear a general manager say, hey, you know what happened? The team struggled with buy-in much of the season.
Honestly, to me, that's very concerning because buy-in is not something that you can teach. I don't think like it's something that has to come from the players. I would have felt, granted, it wouldn't have carried much weight at this point because the season's already over, but like it almost would have made me feel better if he had said like, you know what, they were so bought in, but this system is just so hard and really, they struggled with it, but they're trying. Like that would have made me feel better. I don't know if a lot of fans would have bought that, but it still is better. But like for him to say, yeah, they weren't bought in. It's like, ooh, that's not good.
Yes. And system is something quantifiable. Like here are the statistics that show you why this system or where this system has weaknesses. When you say buy-in is a problem, it's hard to quantify that and then measure, oh, look, the numbers tell us this has self-corrected. And it is really a little bit alarming. Like, okay, if that is a problem and it's a big one, what are you going to do to fix it? So what led Barry Trotz to believe that buy-in was an issue for his team? Part of it was timing and part of it were specific red flags. This is what Trotz had to say about buy-in.
And then obviously I think that we caused that slow start, which really put us in a tough spot. The slow start, which hurt our confidence as a group. More importantly, it affects your buy-in. if you don't get off to a good start, you start to question yourself a little bit. I think it hurt our buy-in, and when your buy-in gets questioned a little bit because you don't have a great start, the trust, the consistency, your identity, resiliency, your mental fortitude of fighting through stuff and trusting the process is not quite there. The red flags that I always look for, offensive zone penalties by some of our key guys at key moments. Inability to control momentum by doing things to kill it, giving up a quick goal right after we score one, early goals in periods, late goals in periods, game management stuff with the puck in those crucial moments. Too many men on the ice penalties. It's a little bit of indicators of trust, a little bit of indicators of focus and indicators of commitment.
So let's just talk about timing and the red flags. Let's look at the first 5 games of the season. First 5 games of the season: loss to Dallas 4-3, loss to Detroit 3-0, loss to Seattle 7-3, loss to Edmonton 4-2, loss to Detroit again 5-2. In those games, the Predators were outscored 23-10. And then let's go through and red flag this bad boy, those first 5 games of the season. When it comes to giving up early or late period goals, in those 5 games, the Predators gave up 8. Twice in 5 games, the Predators scored and then very quickly gave up a goal. They had a too many men on the ice penalty. You had penalties for things like holding and interference by top players who ended up sitting in the penalty box. All of those things happened in the first 5 games. And you could say, oh my gosh, wow, they sure didn't have it together in the first 5 games. But the Nashville Predators continued to see all of those same issues all season long, Emma. You got to wonder at some point what you ask yourself. Why was it, do you think, that start going the way it did never got back on track for this team?
I don't know. I mean, I wish I did, but I think that if, I mentioned this on yesterday's show, but a little bit of like, this team hasn't been part of, like, they haven't been successful together before, like this group.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you heard it kind of like throughout the year, you hear players say it, Andrew Brunette would say it, like, we got to get back to our identity. It's like, well, what's your identity? Like, what is it? Because you haven't established one. That's the thing. You can't really go back to last year. I mean, you could obviously, but it's not the same group of players. And the pieces that you've added are not depth pieces. Like, these are core, central pieces to your system. And so if they haven't experienced this, if they're not part of the identity and they are just trying to catch a moving train the entire time, then that's not going to go well for anyone.
When you tell people to trust the process and the process immediately is a disaster, it's very hard for somebody who is still looking for the ketchup at Trader Joe's to go, nope, but I believe this is going to work. You talk about identity. There were times towards the end of the season where we would ask ourselves, like, no idea what we're going to see from the Nashville Predators tonight. There really never was that trust, that focus, that commitment, that consistent identity from this team. And it started immediately. So the Predators next season are going to have the same head coach. They're going to have basically the same core group of players. That roster is not going to change in big ways. So how do you get this team to buy in next season? We're going to talk about that challenge coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find an amazing candidate fast? It's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If you are missing that right person for a role in your business, you know the pressure's on to find and hire them quickly. That is exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. All right, Emma, I think one of the easiest ways to fix buy-in is to find success. But when you look at this, how much responsibility do you put on the head coach for putting together a very convincing marketing strategy to get players to buy in despite results? Because Andrew Brunette struggled to do that all season long. What's he got to do to get them to buy in?
Well, it's going to be even harder now because now they can't even give him the benefit of the doubt because they've played for him for a season. I think a lot of it is going to be he has got to get tougher on them. And because we talked about this yesterday, how everyone, the players felt like they were walking on eggshells around each other, consciously or not. And I think that Andrew Brunette kind of falls into that as well. Like, I think that if you're the coach and you have a room full of players who keep deferring to one another and don't want to step on each other's toes, then you as the coach need to step in and have that, sort of that iron fist and be like, okay, I'm taking charge, or like whatever that looks like. Not like I'm taking charge and it's my way or the highway, but more of like, be a commanding presence and actually, you don't ask for them to buy in. You kind of have to demand it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in locker room cleanout, the feedback that we got from a lot of players about coaching, even from Jonathan Marchessault, who was one of those players whose comments kind of went viral for what he had to say. But even Jonathan Marchessault said, look, they did a good job. Like, they made it fun for us. There was some sort of attempt to unify this team. It just didn't convert to any sort of on ice success. If Barry Trotz thought 5 games of those kind of red flags was terrible, 82 games of those red flags feels like 84 years. That is hockey math, my friends. And I do think Andrew Brunette has got to sell this style of play to these players. And I think there has to be compromise. And Trotz talked about that. Like, Brunette has to find ways to complement their style of play, and the players have to trust that Bruno knows what he's asking for. And none of that happened over the course of 82 games last season for this team, which I just find astounding. You and I have said, we said all last season, this is not a talent issue. There's not a lack of talent. There are holes in the roster that need to be addressed, but there is not a lack of talent for the Nashville Predators, but they never put it together. And so much of that comes down to that buy-in. Andrew Brunette has to sell, and they got to want to buy what he is selling, whether it is style of play or how he wants things done. He has to get that buy-in. There is one other thing that Barry Trotz talked about that's going to have a big impact when it comes to getting everybody to buy in under Andrew Brunette. And it sounds easy, but it's not going to be. He talks about early success next season. This is what he had to say.
The buy-in has to be, it comes with, with success. We didn't have any early success, so it made it very difficult to have a lot of buy-in. And towards the end of the year, when the roster got really lean, we had the buy-in. We just had a lean roster, playing some rosters that were a lot deeper than ours. If people are willing to adapt and willing to be a part of something then you don't need to change, as long as they understand that, hey, we took a step back, we'll take a step forward here. And, that part of that. But then we are in a results-based situation. We didn't get the results, so, we'll need to get some results early, no question.
When they lost those first 5 games last season, like, I think you and I were like, "Oh, okay, this is of note," but we also knew it was gonna take some time to get these players up to speed, and that never happened, and part of that, Barry Trotz says, is because after that initial failure, there was panic and there was a lack of buy-in. Well, if you thought the pressure was on in last season's first 5 games, you all, just wait and see how much pressure there is, because the most important thing that can happen if this team really wants to get on track is results. They have got to win to start the season, Emma. I mean, we have no schedule. We don't have a full roster yet. So how do we know that they're going to be able to do it?
We don't. And last year, when we did have a full roster and a schedule, we thought that they would do it. And look what happened. So I think that, that's exactly to my earlier point of like, they didn't experience success together before. So it's going to be very hard for them to buy whatever Andrew Brunette is selling if they are not fully, mentally there. I understand it's just human nature to be resistant to things like, this isn't working. I don't like it. I don't want to do it anymore. This is uncomfortable. We haven't seen results, whatever. Like, that's just life. That happens. And that's a normal thing to feel. So I think that they do, like you said, that pressure is going to be turned up so high for this year to be like, okay, I need to see that there can be some level of success with this process. Like you said, trusting the process. Well, it's hard to do that when the process has only ever led you to failure. So it's like you need to see the results. And again, last year we kind of had the excuse, not an excuse, but we sort of had that in the back of our minds, like, this team is new together. It's going to take them a little bit. They might not see success right away. That's okay. That was when we thought they would see success later, and they didn't. But, it's like, again, you and I don't think were panicked when they didn't see the early success last year. I'm going to be a little panicked if they don't have it this year.
100%. I mean, the pressure is on to come out of the gate and see some sort of results, like true results, not like, well, we looked like ourselves more. Like, you got to win games right out of the gate. I think it's interesting that the season before, where they went on that 18-game point streak, and the reality is, you're probably never going to replicate that 18-game point streak. In some ways, that was a mirage, but it was enough for that team to go, oh, so there is something here. Whether it was real or not, they bought in and they made it to the postseason. But I think there were so many big changes in the locker room that didn't carry over enough to kind of counterbalance I don't get what we're doing and it didn't work in the first 5 games. I just think it was too much of a vapor, that 18-game point streak, to hold its own against the panic of losing those first 5 games and the expectation. Because those first 5 losses didn't just feel like 5 losses. They felt like 50 losses, because everybody, not just in Nashville, but the, NHL league-wide was like, ooh, Nashville is going to do it. Expectation weight is big. That is something Nashville will not have next season. And I think that could help them. I think being an underdog, being like, oh, they're a joke. Like, oh, they can't get it together. Maybe that will help them.
I mean, it kind of seemed to help them last year. Like, no one expected anything of them. Now it's like, I wouldn't even say that this is the same though, because last year it was like, well, you know what? They got a new coach, new GM. They're just here. They're just having a good time. Like, whatever happens, happens. This year, even though no one is expecting good things because of what we just saw this last year, there's still an underlying sort of just assumption or just like this undercurrent of pressure on them. That it's like,
True.
the first year, if you didn't like, if you had lost, no one would have cared or no one would have really blamed you for it. Last year, now you lost and it was real bad. So now it's like, even if people aren't expecting anything of you, I feel like sort of deep down they sort of are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you still look at those names on the roster and you say to yourself, okay, they can't possibly be that bad individually again. Coming up, we're going to talk about what they need to do individually now to get themselves ready to find immediate success next season. And also, Emma, I found myself asking, is there a new team in the Central Division now? Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Whether it is dining out, online shopping, and the cost of entertainment, it's really easy to lose track. That is where Monarch Money comes in. It is your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. I love how easy Monarch Money makes financial collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts. You can set goals and stay on the same page without the extra stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, Emma, we joke sometimes about saging the locker room, but I do think there is something to that imagery to get this team ready, because what is going to fix buy-in really is going to be results. But I do think they have a lot of mental work to do individually and collectively after this season, because the train went off the rails in the first 5 games and it never got back on track through the entire season. And I think you have players like Steven Stamkos and Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi and UC Saros going, what just happened? And I do think like these guys are going to need to do some mental work over the off season to get themselves in a place where they can kind of clear it away and go, okay, you know what? I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah, and I think that's, part of that is going to be time away.
Yeah.
Just kind of space to breathe a little bit. But yeah, I mean, they're all going to have to do it. And some of them, and we're not, I realize now it sounds like we were saying, well, Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault were not bought in. And it's like, well, it's not just them.
Right.
I think collectively they lost the buy-in. And so I think it is, each of them have to find that individually in order for them to find it collectively, because it can't just be one or two guys like putting everyone on their back. Quite frankly, the Predators don't have like a Nathan McKinnon or like a safety net player who can like steal games for them offensively, at least.
Yep.
So it's like they all got to be in on it.
Yeah. And I think, I want to be careful, like you said, not to say, well, those new guys, they just ruined it. The team had buy-in after that 18-game streak, and these new guys came in and just weren't going to buy. It's not that. I think everybody in that locker room at points were in and out subconsciously, because it is very hard to continue to tell yourself, no, we are on the right track, when the right track has you out of the postseason discussion by November. Like, it's very hard to believe we've got this. No, I'm going to trust my gut over the numbers when the numbers so early told this team, ooh, this is bad. So I agree with you. I want to be careful to say this was not a new guy problem and they came in and weren't willing to work with the team. I don't think it was that at all. I think everybody was in and out with buy-in and not even probably consciously. I think subconsciously it's hard to believe in something you can't see. So I think Andrew Brunette also has to be prepped over this offseason. He has to come in with such a great sales pitch that it's going to knock their socks off. And he's also going to have to come in and go, hey guys, I hear your feedback. Here's how I want to adjust the great feedback that I received from you at the end of the season. And they're going to have to work together. Like this is not just on Andrew Brunette's marketing skills, but it is going to be on the players and communication as well. It's going to be a tricky one. This is going to be a tricky one to fix or a very easy one. It's going to be tricky if they can't win right away. It's going to snap into place if they do. And who knows? Like, I don't even want to touch that prediction, Emma. I don't even want to touch that. There is a new team in the Central Division, only there's not, Emma. And I wanted to get your take on this. So it was announced officially yesterday, but now, come on, we all kind of knew. The Utah Hockey Club has now become the Utah Mammoth. You and I have had some discussions about this. How are you feeling now that we've officially landed on Mammoth?
I mean,
seriously.
I think the logo is cool. Looks
The
a little
logo's
familiar though. Looks a little familiar to an Ice Age era animal with sharp tusks
Pointy.
or teeth
Yeah, that curl one direction or the other. Mhm.
that is facing right and looks angry. Just saying. But yeah, I don't know. See, I'm part of the minority. And I recognized that I was a minority, that I liked Hockey Club. I knew they weren't going to stick with it, because they wouldn't do that. But I was like, I'm of the mindset that's like, stick with Hockey Club. It don't just change the name for the sake of changing it. Change it to something better. And I understand they ran into a ton of trademark issues, including, Yeti, which a lot of people see. I didn't
Yeti.
Oh, but I don't know. Some people, and I've gotten in conversations with people recently about this, who I personally don't have a strong feeling about this in particular, but I feel like I've learned recently there is a very vocal segment of sports fans who really detest the singular name, like the singular team.
I just became aware of this.
Things like Mammoth or Kraken or Lightning or Avalanche. And I'm like, I really don't have a problem with that aspect of it. That really doesn't bother me, because I think there are some singular names like Kraken, for example, that are fantastic.
I don't want to have to say avalanches.
No.
I don't want to have to say that. I don't want to have to say plural.
No.
Is mammoths, is it singular? Is it mammoths, or is this
this is mammoth singular?
Singular, but the plural of if you have a whole bunch of them, they are mammoths. You know what I'm saying? How sometimes some things don't change?
In theory, yes, but their official team name is singular. Mammoth
is one. It's just one mammoth.
Yeah, so it's like you wouldn't say the Krakens or the Lightnings, or even though there's more of them. Yeah, I don't really get it. I mean, it's fine. I like the colors. I like that they kept the same color scheme. I like that they I don't know. It's fine.
I gotta tell you, I love the logo. I will say this. I love the logo. You are right. It is very familiar. I am relieved that they did not go with the Wasatch, the Utah Wasatch, because that makes me feel uncomfortable. But in the logo, they do have the Wasatch Mountain Range, and the state of Utah shape is hidden in there, and all this is the logo is clever. Here's where I'm like, you are trying too hard on this. The colors are not black, white, and blue. No, my friends. Rock black, salt white, mountain blue. I'm like, did you ever watch Steel Magnolias, where Shelby's wedding, her mom's like, oh, the bridesmaid dresses are pink, and Shelby's like, they're blush and bashful. You just
Yeah.
blush and bashful the NHL with that. Like, stop trying to sell me that. And I
Yeah,
mean, like, the Predators probably have some weird colors names, but we all know that's like yellow and blue. It's yellow and navy, you all.
Well, but that's the thing is if you somewhere Sean Henry just heard you say yellow instead of
right.
gold, and
That's true.
he just
He
threw
just
a dart
cringed.
at
I'm
your
sorry.
picture.
I'm sorry,
Like,
Sean Henry. Gold.
that's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying
it's
though, is like
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Like my alma mater, the school colors are gold and black. And this actually is more of a gold. It's more of like a mustard
It is.
color. So
Yeah.
like you would say
Yeah.
gold. But it's like, no, it's not gold. It's old gold. It's the old gold and
Old
black.
gold.
It's like,
You're the
okay.
old money Demon Deacons and not the
Yeah.
new money Demon Deacons. Yeah.
Like, okay.
I know.
Whatever.
Like, don't get hoity-toity with me over your colors, okay? It's pink. It's not blush and bashful. Don't come at me with that. Like, no. I don't, you know what? I don't hate the mammoth. I don't love the mammoth. I do like the logo a lot. I'm just still bitter. I don't care what they call themselves. They have no business picking above the Nashville Predators in the NHL draft. That's basically where I'm at right now. So wear whatever you want. You stole it. You stole our spot, you punks. Anyway, wear whatever colors you want at the draft, but we know who you are and we know what you did. So
Blush and bashful.
Blush and bashful. Ugh. All right. Well, welcome to the Central Division. We all know you were already here under a different name. So yeah, the Utah Mammoth, and they're going to pick ahead of the Nashville Predators, and they're going to be a competitive team in the Central Division. And the Nashville Predators are going to work really hard this offseason to buy in. And if they don't buy in, friends, Barry Trotz is going to have more decisions to make. We are going to finish up talking about the issues that Barry Trotz shared that tripped up the Nashville Predators this season. And Emma and I are going to talk about, like, how much belief do we have with all of this that we've talked about, that the Predators are going to turn it around next season. We are not going to make predictions. We have too much anxiety for that, but we are going to have a discussion. So tune in tomorrow for that. Before we log off today, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find all my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for this Thursday edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much, y'all, for making us your first listen of the day. We are going to be back tomorrow with our Friday episode talking about, do we believe? We're going to Ted Lasso that. We'll see you then.